Hey there, today we are diving into a really powerful tool for looking at stocks, the PEG ratio. It helps us get past that simple price tag and ask a much smarter question. Is this stock actually a good value, or is it just cheap for a reason? So let's just start with this question because it really gets to the heart of the whole thing. A stock's price doesn't mean much in a vacuum. You have to know what you're getting for that price. And let's be honest, a lot of the time, what you're really paying for is future growth.
All right, so let's frame this with a classic investor dilemma. Imagine you're looking at two companies, and at first glance, the choice seems pretty darn obvious.
Okay, so on your left, you've got company A. Its price to earnings ratio, its PE is high. Everything about it just screams expensive. And on your right, company B. Low PE, looks like a total bargain. Easy decision, right? Well, maybe not. And here's why. This is the core problem, and there's a fantastic analogy for it. Judging a stock by its PE alone is kind of like buying a train ticket without asking where the train is headed. I mean, think about it. A $10 ticket is an amazing deal if it gets you across the country, but it's a total ripoff if it only takes you to the next town over. So how do we figure out how far that train is actually going? This is where a simple but brilliant little mental model comes in, and trust me, it changes the entire way you'll look at this stuff. We have to start asking a better question. How do you really judge a stock's price when its potential for growth can completely change what that price means? And the answer is the PEG ratio. Honestly, the best way to think about it is right there on the screen. It's just PE with speed added. It takes that simple valuation, the PE ratio, and adds that crucial context of how fast the company is actually expected to grow. Okay, so let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works. It might sound a little technical, but I promise you the math here is surprisingly simple. First off, the name itself basically gives you the whole recipe. PEG, price to earnings to growth. Its one and only job is to put the PE ratio and the growth rate side by side for a direct comparison. And the formula is just as straightforward. It's really as easy as 1, 2, 3. First, you find the company's PE ratio. Second, you find its expected earnings growth rate. And third, you just divide that PE number by the growth number. That's it.
Let's run a quick example just to make it crystal clear. Say a stock has a PE ratio of 24, and analysts expect it to grow its earnings by 12%. You just take 24, divide it by 12, and you get a PEG ratio of 2.0. Simple as that.
So why do we even bother with this extra step? Well, because context is everything. A stock with a super high PE might suddenly look totally reasonable if it's backed by explosive growth. And that cheap stock with a low PE? That could be a classic value trap if its growth has hit a wall. Okay, theory is great, but let's put this tool to the test. We're going to look at two fictional companies to see just how dramatically the PEG ratio can flip the script. So let's meet our contestants. In one corner, we have NovaCloud, a fast-growing tech company. It's got a high PE of 40, but also a blazing growth rate of 25%. In the other corner, we have Steady Mart, a stable retail company. Its PE is much lower, just 20, but so is its growth at only 8%. Now, if you only look at the PE ratio, just look at this chart. The decision seems like a total no-brainer. Steady Mart looks twice as cheap as NovaCloud. Case closed, right? But hold on. Watch what happens when we bring in the PEG ratio. The whole story just flips on its head. NovaCloud's PEG is way down at 1.6, while Steady Mart's is up at 2.5. All of a sudden, NovaCloud, the expensive stock, actually looks more attractive for the price because you're getting so much more growth. All right, now before you get too excited and start calculating the PEG for every stock you can find, we have to talk about something really, really important. The PEG ratio is an amazing tool, but it is not a magic 8-ball. You gotta handle it with care. This quote right here is probably the most important thing to remember. The G in PEG, that growth rate, it's just an estimate. It's a forecast, right? It's not a guarantee. And if that forecast turns out to be wrong, well, the whole PEG ratio becomes pretty much useless. And that leads to a few classic mistakes you really want to avoid. First, never ever treat the PEG as the final answer. Second, it's not great for companies with really unpredictable or cyclical earnings. Third, you can't ignore the rest of the business. You still have to look at things like debt and cash flow. And finally, you have to compare apples to apples. A tech company's PEG isn't comparable to a utility company's. So keeping all those warnings in mind, what can you actually do with this new knowledge? let's talk about how to add the PEG ratio to your investor toolkit and start looking at valuation in a much smarter way.
Here is a super practical 5-step checklist. The first 2 steps are the easy part. Find the numbers, do the math. But step 3, that's the crucial one. You have to question that growth estimate. Ask yourself, is this realistic? Then, for step 4, compare that PEG to other similar companies. And finally, step 5, always use it as just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
So here's the real takeaway. What this all boils down to is that you now have a way to look beyond that simple surface-level PE ratio. You can ask a much deeper, much more intelligent question. Does this company's growth story actually justify its price? So, now you've got a great way to think about valuing a company's growth. But growth isn't the only way a stock can create value for you, is it? What about the actual cash a company can put directly into your pocket? Which, of course, brings us right to our next big topic.